Human saves alien girl from an icy ravine, then watches her unlock a door that shouldn't exist. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. Commander Jason Wood had spent years serving in some of the most brutal corners of space, but nothing had prepared him for the icy ravine he now stood at the edge of. The wind howled through the narrow crevice, biting into his skin as he peered down at the frozen depths below. A distress signal had brought him here, but the desolate landscape stretched endlessly, with no sign of life except the endless sweep of snow. The faint glow of a beacon flickered in the distance, and Jason's heart rate quickened. He wasn't alone. As he descended cautiously, his boots crunching through the thick snow, he saw her, a figure in the distance, half buried in the snow, her silver hair shimmering against the backdrop of the barren white landscape. She was barely moving, but the faint outline of her shape was unmistakable. An alien, unlike any he had ever seen before. Her skin, a vibrant green that almost seemed to glow in the harsh light, marked her as one of the Zelari, a species known for their resilience and strength. But this one was different. She was fragile, barely clinging to life. Jason's breath caught in his throat as he approached. His instincts told him to be cautious, but the human part of him couldn't ignore the sight of her struggling to stay conscious. She must have been stranded here for days. The cold, the isolation, it had all taken its toll. Without thinking, he knelt beside her, his gloved hands gently pulling her into his arms. "I've got you," he murmured, his voice steady, but filled with concern. She looked up at him with wide, silver eyes, barely able to focus. Her lips parted, as though to speak, but no sound came out. Jason could feel the weight of her frailty in his arms, and, despite the cold, warmth began to spread through him. He had to get her out of here. She couldn't survive much longer in this state. As he stood, cradling her carefully, he noticed the strange markings on her arms, glowing faintly beneath her translucent skin. They looked almost like runes, symbols Jason didn't recognize. He had read about the Zelari, but nothing in the reports mentioned anything like this. Was it a form of communication? A defense mechanism? The mystery deepened the longer he looked at her. As they made their way through the ravine, Jason felt a strange sense of urgency. Something told him they were running out of time. The alien girl's condition worsened with each step, her breathing becoming more shallow. But then, something incredible happened. As they approached a massive ice formation blocking their path, the girl stirred in his arms, her hand weakly reaching out towards the wall. Jason hesitated, unsure of what to do. But then, with a quiet gasp, the ice began to crack and shift. A faint, blue light glowed from the seams as the girl's hand pressed against the cold surface. "What the hell?" Jason muttered under his breath, unable to comprehend what he was witnessing. The ice wall began to open, revealing a hidden door, one that should not exist in a place like this. It was made of a material Jason had never seen before, smooth and metallic, with intricate designs etched into its surface. It looked ancient, almost alien. And as the door slowly creaked open, Jason felt a chill run down his spine. What had she just done? And what did it all mean? As they stepped inside, the warmth of the air hit them, and Jason could feel the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. The girl had unlocked something, but what was it? The room beyond was unlike anything he had expected. A faint glow emanated from the walls, revealing alien technology scattered across the floor. This was no ordinary cave, no simple shelter. It was a forgotten relic, hidden deep within the ravine. And it seemed to have been waiting for them. Jason couldn't help but wonder if this was the beginning of something much bigger than a simple rescue mission. Jason stepped cautiously into the darkened room, his eyes adjusting to the soft, ethereal glow that bathed the space. The door behind him had closed with a soft hiss, sealing them inside. The warmth was palpable, a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. He could feel his body start to relax, though his mind remained sharp, still processing what had just happened. Liara, still in his arms, stirred slightly, her silver eyes flickering open. She looked around, her gaze scanning the strange, alien technology surrounding them, then slowly turned back to him. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but there was strength in it. "This place, it's ancient. I should have known it would respond to me." Jason's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? What is this place?" She took a shallow breath, as if gathering the strength to explain. "This is a sanctuary, a forgotten part of my people's history. A place of refuge. Only certain beings can open it." Jason shifted his grip slightly, ensuring she was still comfortable. "You're not just an ordinary alien, are you?" She gave a faint smile, her lips barely moving. "No, I am not. But I am not a queen, either. Not anymore." Jason was about to ask her more, but the sound of distant machinery humming interrupted him. The walls began to shift, revealing corridors lined with strange symbols and unfamiliar materials. They were surrounded by technology that seemed to pulse with life, and Jason couldn't help but marvel at it. His mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. "What is all of this?" he asked, his voice filled with awe. "These are the relics of my people, remnants of a time long past," she explained, her tone quiet but full of emotion. "They were meant to guide us, to protect us. But now they are dormant, waiting." Jason looked down at her, a sense of urgency filling him. "Why now? Why did it open for you?" She paused, her eyes locking with his. "Because I was meant to find it. The answers are here, Jason. Everything about why I'm here, why I was abandoned, it's all here." He could sense the weight of her words, the pain that she carried with her. He had no idea what her past entailed, but he knew that it was far from simple. "What happens now?" Jason asked, his voice steady, though his heart was racing with a mix of curiosity and concern. Liara's gaze softened, and she slowly looked away, her fingers gently brushing against the smooth surface of one of the walls. "Now, we awaken the past. But we must be careful. What we uncover may change everything." Jason stood silently for a moment, letting her words sink in. This was no ordinary mission. This wasn't just a rescue. They were on the edge of something far bigger than either of them could have imagined. He glanced around at the strange technology, feeling both awe and trepidation. What had they stumbled upon? And more importantly, what would they do with it? As if on cue, the room seemed to react, the soft hum growing louder, the air vibrating with energy. Jason's heart skipped a beat. Liara looked back at him, her silver eyes wide with a mix of fear and anticipation. "It's starting. We have to move quickly. There's no telling what this place will do once it's fully awakened." With a deep breath, Jason nodded. "Lead the way." He could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on him. They were about to uncover a mystery that could change the fate of more than just one alien girl, and more than just him. It was bigger than anything he had ever faced before. But he wasn't backing down. Not now. Not when it mattered most. Jason followed Liara through the corridors, the faint hum of energy filling the air as the strange, alien technology seemed to awaken with each step they took. The walls around them shifted, revealing more intricate patterns and symbols, some of which Jason could almost feel vibrating in the air. They weren't just in some forgotten part of a ruined world, they were in a place that had once held immense power, a place that still carried that power beneath the surface. Liara led him with purpose, her silver eyes scanning every detail with a quiet intensity. Jason could see the faint tremor in her hands, the way her body moved with both grace and caution. This wasn't just a mission for her, it was personal. She was reconnecting with something long lost, and the weight of it seemed to hang heavily on her shoulders. "This way," Liara said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty in her gaze. Jason nodded, keeping close, his eyes darting from one strange device to another. Everything around them was foreign, yet there was something familiar about the way it all seemed to fit together, like the pieces of a puzzle waiting to be solved. They reached the end of the corridor, where a large stone door stood before them. The door was covered in the same glowing symbols Jason had seen earlier, and he could feel the air around it pulse with energy. "This is it," Liara whispered, her voice barely audible. She stepped forward, her fingers outstretched toward the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft click, the door began to slide open, revealing a chamber beyond. Jason's breath caught in his throat as he stepped inside, his eyes widening at the sight before him. The room was vast, its walls lined with towering shelves filled with strange artifacts and data pads, items that seemed to pulse with the same energy as the door. But it wasn't just the technology that drew Jason's attention, it was the central figure of the room. At the far end, on a raised platform, stood a statue, an ancient depiction of a creature, part humanoid, part beast, with intricate markings running across its surface. Liara stepped forward, her eyes locked on the statue. "This is the key," she said softly, her voice filled with awe. "This statue represents my people's greatest achievement, our connection to the stars." Jason felt a chill run down his spine as he took in the magnitude of her words. The alien girl, this fragile yet powerful being, had led him to a place that held the secrets of her entire race. "What do we do now?" Jason asked, his voice low. Liara turned to him, her expression intense. "Now, we unlock the truth. We awaken what was once forgotten." She moved toward the statue, her hands reaching out to touch the markings. As her fingers brushed against the stone, the entire room seemed to hum with energy. The air thickened, and Jason felt a wave of power wash over him, as though the room itself was coming to life. "This place," Jason murmured, his mind racing. "It's not just a relic. It's alive." Liara nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Yes. And now that we've opened it, there's no turning back." Jason could feel the gravity of her words settle over him. They weren't just uncovering the past, they were about to rewrite history. "Are you ready?" Liara asked, her voice steady but filled with a quiet intensity. Jason met her gaze, a sense of determination flooding his chest. "I'm ready." Together, they stepped closer to the statue, ready to unlock the secrets that lay within. The room seemed to pulse around them, and as Jason reached out to touch the stone, the air crackled with anticipation. This was it. The moment that would change everything. As Jason's hand made contact with the stone, the entire chamber seemed to shudder with life. The air thickened around them, the hum of energy growing louder, vibrating through the floor beneath his boots. The stone statue in front of them seemed to pulse in time with the increasing resonance of the room. Jason stepped back slightly, his heart racing. He had never encountered anything like this before, and the sheer power emanating from the stone made his skin tingle. Liara, however, stood still, her expression one of intense focus. She had expected this. This was no ordinary relic, it was a conduit, a key to something far greater. The markings on the statue began to glow, a soft blue light that gradually intensified. The intricate symbols along the creature's body shifted, rearranging themselves as if alive. Jason watched in awe, unable to tear his eyes away. Liara finally spoke, her voice low but steady. "This is the heart of my people's legacy. This is what we were meant to protect." Jason turned to her, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean, protect? What is this?" Liara's gaze never wavered from the statue. "It's not just a relic. It's a message, a technology left behind by the Zelari to guide us. It's meant to lead us back to our origins, to help us unlock the potential we lost." Jason processed her words, trying to understand. "So, this is more than just a memory of your people. This is something that can change things." Liara nodded slowly. "Yes. But it's not just about what we lost. It's also about what we could become." The blue light intensified, and Jason could feel it now, a strange pull, as if the room itself was trying to draw him in. His instincts told him to be cautious, but something inside him also felt drawn to it. The walls of the chamber seemed to ripple, and Jason felt the air thicken as the light from the statue bathed the room in an eerie glow. He felt like he was standing at the edge of something monumental. Something that could alter the course of history. Liara took a deep breath, and Jason could see the weight of the moment on her face. "The truth lies within," she said softly. "And now, we must uncover it." Slowly, she stepped forward, her fingers gently brushing against the statue's surface. The light from the statue flared, and the room seemed to come alive, the hum of energy vibrating through the air. Jason could feel it now, an intense connection, like something ancient awakening deep within the walls. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed through the room, and the floor beneath them shifted. The stone platform that had held the statue began to move, retracting into the ground to reveal a hidden chamber below. Liara's expression softened, a hint of relief flashing across her face. "It's working," she whispered. Jason looked down at her, his heart pounding. "What now?" She turned to face him, her eyes shining with a mix of excitement and fear. "Now, we enter. What lies ahead is the key to everything. We will uncover the past, but we must also prepare for what it will mean." Without another word, she stepped forward, and Jason followed, his pulse quickening with each step as they descended into the unknown. The air grew cooler, and the strange energy from above seemed to follow them, pulling them deeper into the bowels of the chamber. Jason's mind raced with questions, but one thing was certain: the path they were about to walk would change everything. They were no longer just uncovering a relic of the past. They were about to unlock the secrets of an entire civilization, a civilization that held the answers to mysteries that could alter the fate of worlds. Liara's voice echoed in the silence. "Are you ready, Jason?" Jason took a deep breath, his gaze locked on hers. "I'm ready." They stepped forward, into the darkened passage ahead, where the past awaited them, and with it, the potential for a future neither of them could yet comprehend. The passage was narrow and dark, the only sound the soft echo of their footsteps as Jason and Liara descended further into the hidden depths. The air was cool, tinged with an almost metallic scent, and the faint hum of the chamber above seemed to follow them. Jason's heart raced with anticipation, but he forced himself to stay focused. Liara, moving with quiet confidence ahead of him, seemed at ease in this place, as though it held no fear for her. She was on a mission, a journey that was as much about her personal history as it was about unlocking the secrets of her people. As they continued, the walls around them began to shift, faint outlines of unfamiliar symbols lighting up as if recognizing their presence. The air grew denser, charged with energy that Jason could feel seeping into his very bones. He couldn't help but wonder just how ancient this place truly was, and how much it was connected to Liara herself. After what felt like an eternity of walking through the dim corridor, they arrived at a large stone door. The door was made of a strange, dark material that shimmered with an almost ethereal glow. Liara paused in front of it, her eyes tracing the patterns etched into the surface. "This is it," she said softly, her voice filled with a reverence that Jason hadn't heard from her before. "The heart of everything." Jason stepped closer, his breath catching as the door slowly began to open. He could feel the air shift around them, the temperature growing colder as the ancient mechanism stirred to life. As the door creaked open, they were met with an immense chamber beyond. The room was vast, far larger than anything Jason had expected, and it was filled with strange, glowing devices that seemed to pulse with life. It was as if the room itself was alive, breathing with the power of whatever had once existed here. Liara stepped inside first, her footsteps quiet, almost reverent. Jason followed closely behind, his gaze scanning the room, taking in the unfamiliar technology. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, but there was a beauty to it, a harmony that seemed to resonate with the air itself. As they moved deeper into the chamber, Liara approached a pedestal in the center of the room. Atop the pedestal lay a crystalline object, glowing softly in the dim light. Liara reached out, her fingers brushing the surface of the crystal. The moment she made contact, the room seemed to come alive. The objects around them began to hum, the symbols on the walls lighting up in intricate patterns. Jason felt a surge of energy fill the air, and for a moment, he was unsure if he was dreaming or standing in the midst of something far beyond his understanding. "This is it," Liara whispered again, her voice filled with awe. "This is the key." Jason's mind raced as he took in the scene before him. The crystal seemed to pulse with energy, as though it were calling to something deep within Liara. She had been chosen for this, he realized. She was the one who had been destined to unlock the secrets of this place. But what would happen now? What were they about to uncover? The energy in the room seemed to swell, and for a moment, Jason felt as though the very walls were closing in on them. He stepped back, his heart pounding in his chest. Liara, what is this? What is it that you're unlocking? Liara turned to him, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. The truth, she said softly. The truth about my people. The truth about why I was sent here. Jason's mind raced. This was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. It wasn't just about survival or rescue anymore. They were standing on the edge of something that could change everything. Liara stepped forward, her hand still resting on the crystal. We're not just uncovering the past, she said, her voice filled with determination. We're creating the future. Jason could feel the weight of her words, and for the first time since meeting her, he understood. He wasn't just part of a rescue mission anymore. He was standing beside a force that could alter the course of history. And whatever came next, he knew he had to see it through. Liara's voice broke through his thoughts once again, soft yet full of purpose. Are you ready, Jason? He took a deep breath, the gravity of the moment settling in. I'm ready. Together, they stood in the glowing chamber, ready to unlock a future neither of them could yet fully comprehend. As the crystal pulsed with energy, Jason felt the temperature in the room shift. It wasn't just the air growing warmer, it was as though the very atmosphere around them was responding to the force being unlocked within the chamber. The hum that filled the space vibrated deep within his chest, resonating with something primal, something ancient. Liara, standing before the pedestal, remained focused on the crystal, her fingers lightly caressing its surface. Jason, though still unsure of the full scope of what was happening, couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something far beyond their understanding. Something that had been hidden for eons. As the glowing symbols on the walls began to move, the light in the room intensified, illuminating the chamber with a brilliant, almost blinding glow. Jason squinted, trying to make sense of the swirling patterns. He could feel the power in the air, a force that seemed to wrap itself around them, drawing them into a world that was not their own. Liara's voice broke through the intensity of the moment. This is it, she said, her voice filled with a sense of awe and certainty. The knowledge of my people, the key to everything. It's all here, waiting for us. Jason's gaze snapped back to her, his eyes wide with realization. And what does that mean for you? For us? Liara turned to face him, her silver eyes glowing brighter now, reflecting the pulsing energy around them. It means everything, Jason. It means we finally have a chance to rebuild, to reclaim what was lost. But it's not just about my people. It's about the future of all who seek to understand the universe. Jason stepped closer, still trying to wrap his mind around the implications of her words. This wasn't just about Liara or her people anymore, it was about something much larger, something that could change the course of history. But how do we know we're ready for this? He asked, his voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. Liara smiled faintly, a glimmer of sadness in her eyes. We don't, she admitted. But we have no choice. The truth is here, and it's not just for us to understand. It's for everyone. And when the truth comes to light, we must be ready to embrace it. The crystal seemed to respond to her words, its glow brightening even more, filling the entire chamber with an almost overwhelming light. Jason blinked, momentarily blinded by the intensity, but when his vision cleared, the room had transformed. Where once there had been only stone and ancient relics, now the chamber was filled with what appeared to be holographic projections, images of stars, galaxies, and distant worlds, some of them flickering as though they were being seen for the first time. The patterns on the walls shifted again, and Jason could make out the shapes of ancient star maps, displaying constellations he didn't recognize. Liara's expression grew even more intense as she stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the projections. This is what my people knew, she whispered. This is what we've been searching for. The path to the stars, the knowledge of everything that came before us. Jason could see the emotion in her eyes, a mixture of longing and hope. She wasn't just a survivor of her people's past, she was a key to their future. A future that was now in their hands. So, what do we do now? Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Liara turned to him, her expression one of determination. We take the knowledge, and we make sure it's shared with everyone. We don't let it fall into the wrong hands. This is our chance to change everything. The room hummed louder, the energy growing more intense, as if the chamber itself was acknowledging her words. Jason could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, and for the first time, he truly understood the gravity of their mission. They weren't just exploring an ancient ruin, they were standing at the threshold of a new beginning. And whatever came next, Jason knew that he and Liara were in this together. They were about to unlock the greatest secret of all, and there was no turning back. As the holographic projections continued to pulse around them, Jason felt a sense of awe and wonder, though a deep sense of responsibility also settled heavily on his shoulders. The maps, the images, and the vast knowledge of Liara's people stretched before him, revealing the hidden history of the universe. He could feel the weight of what they were about to uncover. Their actions now could shape the future of countless worlds. Liara, standing beside him, seemed to be absorbing it all with a mixture of fascination and reverence. She had spent her entire life seeking this knowledge, and now, with Jason by her side, they were on the verge of unlocking secrets that had been lost for centuries. This is what we've been searching for, Liara said softly, her voice trembling slightly with the intensity of the moment. This is the legacy of my people, and it's more than just our past. It's our future. Jason turned to her, sensing the emotion in her voice. What do we do now? How do we make sure this doesn't fall into the wrong hands? Liara's eyes met his, a spark of determination igniting within them. We share it. We take this knowledge and make sure it's used for good. No more secrets. No more hiding. We must trust that others will understand the importance of what we've found. Jason nodded, his gaze flickering back to the star maps projected around them. But how do we know who to trust? How do we ensure that this doesn't become a weapon? We don't, Liara replied, her voice steady, though there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. But we have no choice. The truth must come to light. And we have to be ready for whatever happens next. The energy in the room shifted again, and the holographic projections began to fade, leaving behind the soft glow of the crystal that Liara had touched earlier. Jason could feel a pulse of energy surge through the floor beneath him, and the ground trembled slightly. It was as if the very foundations of the chamber were reacting to the release of this ancient knowledge. Liara stepped forward, her hand reaching out to touch the crystal once more. We've activated it, she whispered, her voice filled with awe. This is just the beginning. Jason moved to stand beside her, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. What happens now? Now, Liara said, her voice taking on a new, more commanding tone, we prepare. We need to take this knowledge to the right people. We need to make sure we have allies. And we need to be ready for whatever challenges come our way. Jason watched as the last of the holographic projections faded into the ether, leaving only the soft, glowing crystal behind. He could feel the weight of Liara's words pressing down on him. This wasn't just about uncovering the past. It was about setting the stage for the future. And as much as the unknown unsettled him, he knew one thing for certain, he was in this with her. Whatever came next, they would face it together. I'm with you, Jason said firmly. We'll do this. Together. Liara smiled, her silver eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper, something that spoke of shared purpose and trust. Thank you, she said softly, before turning back to the crystal. Now, we begin. As Jason stood there, side by side with Liara, he realized that everything had changed. They were no longer just two individuals on a mission. They were part of something far bigger, something that could change the destiny of not only her people but every species in the galaxy. And with that realization came a sense of urgency, a sense that time was now against them. They had to act fast. The truth was out there, but they needed to ensure it was used wisely. Together, they stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that the future was now in their hands. The hum of energy in the chamber seemed to pulse through Jason's body as he and Liara stood together, facing the crystal that had unlocked so much more than they could have anticipated. The truth of her people, the knowledge of the stars, and the legacy of an entire civilization lay in their hands. The weight of it felt heavier than the solid stone beneath their feet. Liara's gaze was fixed on the glowing crystal, her fingers brushing its surface as though trying to absorb its secrets. "It's all here," she murmured, her voice barely audible, but tinged with awe. Jason stood beside her, feeling the intensity of the moment. He could hear the energy crackling around them, the tension thickening in the air. Everything had led up to this, an ancient, hidden truth waiting to be unlocked, and now that it had been, he wasn't sure what to expect next. "What now?" Jason asked, his voice low, filled with uncertainty but also determination. Liara didn't look at him immediately. Her eyes were still fixed on the crystal, deep in thought. She knew what had to be done, but it was a heavy burden. "Now," she said, finally meeting his gaze, "we must make sure it reaches the right hands. There are people out there who will stop at nothing to control this knowledge. We have to find allies, and we have to move fast." Jason nodded, feeling the same urgency in his chest. He had thought this mission was just about rescuing an alien girl and surviving the cold. He had never imagined they would be caught up in something so much bigger, something that could change the fate of entire worlds. The chamber around them seemed to come alive, the walls flickering with images of ancient civilizations and galaxies far away. The crystal pulsed again, and Jason could feel the vibrations in his bones. It was as if the knowledge contained within this room had a will of its own, beckoning them to uncover more. But how much more were they ready to uncover? Liara's face hardened as she looked back at the crystal. "We need to be careful. The knowledge here, it's not just about the past. It's about the future. There's a reason my people hid it. And there's a reason why we've never been able to fully understand it." Jason's mind raced. "You mean it's dangerous?" "Not dangerous in the way you think," she replied, her voice serious. "It's more like, it's a force, a power. One that can either unite or divide. One that can either help us reclaim what we lost or tear us apart forever." Jason stood in silence for a moment, letting her words sink in. They weren't just uncovering history. They were holding the future of Liara's people in their hands. And in a way, the future of humanity too. "So what's the plan?" he asked, ready for whatever came next. Liara looked at him, her expression a mixture of resolve and uncertainty. "We gather the information, we find the right people, people who will understand the importance of this, and then we share it. We have to trust that the truth will bring us together, not tear us apart." Jason could see the uncertainty in her eyes, the weight of responsibility that she carried. She wasn't just protecting the knowledge of her people. She was also protecting their future. "I'll help you," Jason said firmly. "We'll figure this out together. I'm not letting anything happen to you." Liara's gaze softened for a moment, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Thank you," she whispered. Together, they turned back to the crystal, the pulsing light growing brighter, filling the room with a sense of anticipation. The future was now within reach, but it wasn't just up to them. They would need to be careful, to move quickly, and to trust that they were doing the right thing. Jason took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. No matter what came next, they would face it together. The weight of the universe seemed to rest on their shoulders, but for the first time since meeting Liara, Jason felt ready to bear it. The door ahead began to open once again, revealing a new path. It was time to step forward. And whatever lay ahead, he knew that with Liara by his side, they would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As Jason and Liara stepped through the door that slowly closed behind them, the chamber they entered was unlike any place they had seen before. The walls were lined with ancient, translucent materials that shimmered with faint light, and the air felt charged, as if it had been waiting for centuries to breathe again. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and every step they took echoed through the vast expanse of the room. Liara moved ahead, her silver eye scanning the surroundings, a deep focus in her expression. She was no longer the same uncertain alien girl Jason had met days ago. Now, she was a guide, a keyholder to a secret buried in time, and the weight of it seemed to shape her every movement. "This is where it all began," Liara whispered, almost to herself. "The place my people used to gather, to dream, to plan our future." Jason, though still grappling with the magnitude of what they had uncovered, couldn't help but feel the weight of her words. They weren't just exploring a relic. They were stepping into the history of a civilization. "So, what's the next step?" Jason asked, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Liara stopped in front of a massive, illuminated panel embedded into the floor. Its surface was covered in symbols, some familiar, others completely foreign. She kneeled before it, her fingers gently tracing the designs. "The next step," she said softly, "is to unlock the final piece." Jason watched her closely, noting the mixture of determination and sorrow in her eyes. It was clear she had carried this responsibility alone for so long, and now she was sharing it with him. "We have to activate this," she continued. "This is where the knowledge was stored. The heart of everything my people once knew." The symbols on the panel began to glow as her fingers pressed against them, and a low hum filled the air. The glow intensified, the energy in the room building like a storm that was about to break. Jason stepped back slightly, instinctively feeling the rising pressure, but Liara remained calm. "It's okay," she reassured him, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is how it works. We've come this far. Now we finish it." The symbol shifted and rearranged, the panel vibrating as if it was waking from a long slumber. Suddenly, a low, resonant sound filled the room, like a massive heartbeat, and the floor beneath them shifted. Jason's pulse quickened. He had no idea what they were about to awaken, but he knew it would change everything. Liara's eyes were closed now, her face illuminated by the soft, pulsating light of the panel. "It's starting," she said, almost in a trance. Jason watched in awe as the space around them seemed to blur, and the walls of the chamber flickered with images, visions of her people, of ancient worlds, of their rise and fall. Time itself seemed to bend in this place, and for a moment, Jason felt as if he was witnessing the very fabric of the universe unraveling before him. Then, with a soft click, the panel before them shifted open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, resting on a pedestal, was a small, crystalline object. It glowed with an otherworldly light, casting shadows across the room. "This is it," Liara said, her voice full of awe. "The last piece of the puzzle. The key to our future." Jason stepped forward, his hand instinctively reaching out toward it. The crystal pulsed with energy, and as his fingers brushed against its surface, he felt a surge of power rush through him, filling him with an overwhelming sense of clarity. In that instant, Jason understood, this was more than just a key to the past. It was the foundation for the future, the catalyst that could either lead them to salvation or destruction. "What do we do with it now?" Jason asked, his voice filled with both wonder and fear. Liara turned to him, her expression resolute. "Now, we make sure it is used wisely," she said. "This knowledge must be shared with the right people, those who will understand its power and know how to wield it for the good of all." Jason nodded, feeling the gravity of her words. They weren't just carrying the fate of her people anymore. They were holding the future of countless others in their hands. "Then let's make sure we do it right," he said, his voice steady with purpose. Liara smiled, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "We will," she said softly. Together, they stood before the crystal, knowing that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but also filled with the potential to change everything. The path was clear now, and they were ready to take the next step, together.